But there is another ideology that is coming to the fore. And this ideology is a group of people who want to split the world again along civilizational lines. They want the West to be for the Westerners. They want it to be once again Christendom, not a multicultural, multi-religious, multi-ethnic society, but they want it to be Christendom, once again dominated by the Greco-Roman Christian values. Okay? This is especially evident in France, also in the United States of America. This is the ideology that is being pushed. And this is why we have these things like banning hijab, making life more and more difficult for Muslims, because it really is an attempt to separate, again, the world of Islam because they see Islam is growing. And it's growing in Europe, and it's growing in America. And they're intimidated by that. Okay? So these ideals, you know, they say, yeah, we can have these ideals as long as it's not going, you know, when it starts going the way we don't want it to go, right? If people start becoming Muslim and that ethic starts taking over, then we change the rules of the game, right? It's like, I'm losing, now I'm changing the rules to make sure I can win, right? And, you know, unfortunately, I think this is happening. You know, only time will tell where it is going to go. Only time. But I have to say, sorry to go on, but I do have to say to the Muslims something very important to my Muslim brothers and sisters. Okay? I believe that this is what is going on. You have not felt it yet in New Zealand, strongly. We were living in cuckoo land in England. Right? We're not anymore. Now we're tasting it. Okay? I hope it doesn't happen here. But do you have to wait for something to happen before you wake up? Do you have to wait for something to happen before you realize that you can't live in the West like semi-ghettoized communities, living in ghettos, not communicating, not interacting, not sharing with people your experience of what Islam is and what it means? You know, you have to reach out. You have to let your neighbors know who you are. You have to invite them round to your house. Tell them about yourself. Tell your friends, tell your colleagues, share, because what we have at the moment is ignorance and suspicion. If we don't tell people about ourselves, about our religion, about the beautiful things about Islam, about how many things that we have in common and how many things we share in common. So many things. What is it that we all want to live in peace? Who wants war? We all want to live in peace. We want to live in harmony. We don't want ethnic strife, and you know, we want to get on with our lives and worship God, okay? And have the freedom to believe what we want to believe, and we will. That's the same for everyone else. Isn't that what we want? Okay, but you know what? If you don't let people know, and you don't explain to them what Islam is about, you know who is going to explain to them? I'll tell you who will explain to them. Shaitan will explain to them. He will come and he will put in their brains, oh, these people are like this and these people are like that. Right? And their imagination will take over. Ah, look who moved in next door. He's got a big beard. And she's covering her head. Oh dear, it's those Muslims. And what is that? A bag of fertilizer? Are they going to build a bomb? Huh? No, we're laughing. We're laughing. It's not a joke though. It's not a joke, because that's what happens. So we have to, and also the other thing, brothers and sisters, is very important. This is the most challenging thing I'm going to throw out to you. I'm going to throw out to you something I hope we're ready for it. I'm not sure we are. Okay? But we have to get rid of our cultural baggage. We have to. Okay? We have to start realizing that Islam, we have to start knowing the difference. And it's challenging. But what is the difference between Islam and culture? Okay? Many of us just think that what we do and what our parents did and what our grandparents did is Islam. No. The fact is that some parts of it are Islam, maybe many parts of it are Islam. But believe me, some parts of it are Hinduism, some parts of it are tribal customs, some parts of it are all sorts of things. They're things that we have put ourselves from our culture and our mind. I'm only suggesting these things to show the ways that we need to start thinking. Okay? Islam is flexible enough to work here in the West. We can make it work. But you know, we have to think very deeply and very hard. And we have to think, how much is our culture and how much is our religion? And we have to find a way to make Islam work within the cultural context of where we live, without abandoning the religion. That's the other extreme that some people go to, and they give up everything altogether. That's not right either. We have to find something in between.
I want to make a couple of statements and would like you to make comments on them, please.
Okay.
First, that we know Islam means peace. We also know that in Islam, taking away innocent lives, like it happened in your backyard in London, is not condoned by Islam. But the other thing is that the West, probably out of misunderstanding, call these people who create these atrocities jihadists. And I'd like to you to make comments on these, please. Thank you.
You know, it is something, I know that, you know, it is something that we repeat it over and over and over again. And, you know, as I have been saying consistently, that Islam is a peaceful religion. Islam is a peaceful religion. But we have to say, it is not pacifist. It is peaceful, but not pacifist. There is a difference. The Quran says, do not commit aggression, or the general meaning of what the Quran says, is do not commit aggression because Allah does not love the aggressors. Okay? Don't commit aggression because Allah does not love the aggressors. But, on the other hand, Islam does tell us and orders us and instructs us that if we are attacked, if our lands are occupied, if our homes, our families are attacked, then we are duty-bound by the religion to defend ourselves. We are duty-bound to do that. It is not allowed for us to just merely sit by and let such tyranny and oppression take place. Okay? In fact, the Quran says, what is wrong with you that you don't struggle in the path of God, and you don't fight when there are men and women and children who are ill-treated and weak and oppressed, who are crying out for the help of God. But even when we fight, we have strict rules. And amongst those strict rules is that we are not allowed to target women, children. There wasn't a term for what we call civilians, but the Prophet ﷺ talked about, the workers in the fields. That's the equivalent, really. I mean, essentially what we find is that Islam is making a clear distinction between the actual fighters, the combatants, and those people who are non-combatants, the people who are not fighting. So to target those people who are not fighters, then that is not allowed. The Quran says, fight those who fight you. So this type of, this type of thing, of blowing up women and children and targeting, what we could call these days civilian targets, brothers and sisters, the statements of the Prophet are very clear. Okay? And so my brothers and sisters, I think this is just, again for clarification about that matter. So, what is the purpose of following any religion? Okay, what is the purpose of following? Everyone has a religion. There is no human being on this planet ever who did not have a religion. The problem is, when we say the word religion, we automatically think in our mind a narrow, secularist definition of what religion is. We usually think Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, Buddhism. But really, we don't have this term in Arabic. What we have is deen. Deen means way of life. And everybody has a way of life. Everybody has a set of values through which and by which they make sense of the world. It's impossible that you don't have some set of values through which and by which you make sense of the world. Everyone has that. Even an atheist has it. Humanists have it. In fact, it's interesting that I've actually been involved in some religious seminars and discussions to children, and in those religious seminars, humanists have been involved. Because they actually look at their ideas as a type of philosophy, a way of explaining things. So in the broader sense of the word, it is religion, and everyone has religion. Religion is what you use to make sense of the world around you. Okay? That's what you use. That's all it is. Everyone has a way of life, so you can't avoid it. Okay? You can't. And everyone has a God or gods, because your God is the thing that you believe is going to give you what you need and what you want. Your God is the thing that you believe is going to give you what you need and what you want. If you think money is going to make you happy and give you what you need and what you want in life, money is your God. Yes. If you think looking like a supermodel, right, is what is going to give you success and happiness in life, it's your God. Right? If you think being good at rugby, right, or being good at sports or whatever, and having a body like, I don't know, whatever, okay, if you think that's what's going to make you happy and give you success in life, in a real sense, that's your God. Everybody has a God. Everybody has something they believe is going to give them what they want and what they need. The real question is this: of all the things that we worship and all the religions that we follow, which God really has the capability to give us what we want and what we need? In other words, of all the gods that human beings worship, and everyone worships something, which one is really worthy of being worshipped? And this is the question that Islam proposes an answer to. That the only one that is truly worthy of being worshipped is the one who has created all things. And every human being actually already knows that. They already know it. Everybody knows it. It's just that they have forgotten. And you know, there is a time when they remember. Everybody remembers. You know, they say, they have a saying, there are no atheists in foxholes. You know what a foxhole is? Yeah? You know when the soldier, you know when the bombs start coming and they dig a hole in the ground to hide in it? That's called a foxhole. You don't have atheists in foxholes. Right? Suddenly it's, oh God save me, oh God help me. And suddenly these people have absolute, total faith in God. The Quran gives an example like that. It gives the example of a boat that is on the sea. And then when the boat is on the sea, the waves start getting higher and higher. And as the Quran describes it, the waves are like the roof of a tent. This is how the waves are crashing down. So when the people lose their faith in their captain, he got washed overboard, so he's not going to save us. And then as the boat starts to break up, they lose their faith in science and technology. Right? They might start saying, Mummy, but Mummy's not there and she's not going to help them. Right? They've already forgotten about all their idols. They've forgotten about their money. They've forgotten about, you know, being an American citizen and passport holder, because that's George Bush isn't going to come and save them. Right? Okay? So suddenly all of the things they worshipped and put their faith and trust in is gone. And then you will find the human being, from the depths of their being, a knowledge that is deep down in themselves, they call out to that one power, that being they know has the ability to rescue them from their predicament. It's not the name that's important, it's the acknowledgement that this being exists that has the power, and that is the deep down knowledge that every human being has, that truly, that this being alone is worthy of worship. Because the reality is, all of those things that you put your faith and trust in ultimately were useless. And the only one that really you recognized at the end had that power and ability to help you was the one that has control over all the affairs of the universe. This is a type of instinctive, natural knowledge that every human being has.